All right, go ahead and start us off.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming along with us again. Episode 41, I was just informed. That is one more than 40. Just doing fast math there. Sorry, Bryce. Yeah. I'll wait on you. Okay. Last week, if I'm not mistaken, we talked about, what did we talk about? The iPhone.
The new iPhone.
iPhone 10s, 10s
Yep.
Max. A little bit about the R. You had left it off. I left it off with something about possibly talking about what you like about iOS 12, but also some, I don't know, speculation or whatever about the iPad. Where are they? Stuff like that. I don't know what your thoughts were. You didn't really delve into it too much. But
well, we didn't have time.
Yeah. What do you have in mind for? What do you want to talk about today? iOS 12, iPad, something else?
Whatever. Let's just roll it. Let's go.
Okay.
There's plenty to talk about.
There is. Have you loaded iOS 12 on anything or all the things?
90% of the things.
On my devices.
97%.
My devices were probably floating around the 100%. Of course, my family, my kids are reluctant because of screen time. My daughter is fighting. She is fighting it. My son, I did it while he was sleeping. He didn't appreciate that. But my daughter, the same fate will befall her probably this evening. But my only complaint about iOS 12 is on my iPad Pro. Well, I suppose there's multiple complaints. I do not like Control Center from the top. It's not a reachability thing because obviously I don't just do that with a 12.9-inch screen. In general, on the iPad itself, not a huge deal that it's from the top, although I have to go over to the side. Not a big deal there. I would despise it. I don't have a phone that does it yet. My phone still does it from the bottom.
Yeah.
Because I have the iPhone 7. But I don't like it on. I'm accustomed to the bottom, so that's one thing. I got used to that. Now they took it away. They took it away for the people that went to the 10 last year. So okay, that's fine. They make changes over time. I don't know if it's due to that change specifically or just they haven't worked out kinks in their software or they're trying to force people to be specific with their movement. But for me, I've noticed that if I want to access the dock, because the dock hides if you're in an app or whatever, before you could just kind of flick up from the bottom and the dock would pop right up. But now for me, on this iOS, on this iPad Pro 12.9-inch, and I've heard similar from other people, they haven't put it the same way, but I'm pretty sure it's the same problem. I have to be very specific. I have to kind of just slide up slightly, hold there for a second, basically kind of say, okay, iPad, this is what I want to do. I just want to see the dock. I don't want you to flip out and show me all my screens, whatever. Because, you slide up, but then you slide up and over, and I completely forgot about that. It'll go to a certain level. If you're within a certain, 2 inches maybe from the bottom of the screen, it'll switch over to your last app. And I'm just not used to all that stuff. I just want to swipe up, get the stupid dock so I can launch the next app. And then if you want to add a second app, for the multitask, you have to be even more specific. Before you could touch, and you had to go slow about it, but you could touch, just hold for a second, slide it over there. But now, I feel like I have to touch, just very slowly drag it over. Like it's almost like a whisper drag, if that makes any sense. You just nobody's noticing, and then put it right in the right place. It's just very finicky. I have to be very specific with my movements. And it's something that I do maybe 35. I'm making up numbers, of course, but 35, 45% of the time. So I do it a lot.
Oh, wow. That is a lot.
It is a lot. Because most of the time, I'm using two windows side by side.
And you have the bigger one, right? 12.9?
I have the bigger one. And a lot of the times, what I'm doing side by side isn't super important that I've got two. It's just whatever I'm in. And then like messages on the side. Just a little sliver on the side of messages so that I can reply to iOS 12 devices anyway. I used to be able to reply to just text messages in general, but no more.
This is my brother.
Yep. Hello.
Bend down a little bit so that there he is. This is
so
Justin,
you're telling me
everyone.
to bend down a little bit.
Welcome to Twins Talk Tech. You're sitting down, Brent. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Wow.
He looks like me, doesn't he?
He sure does.
Yeah, I'm better looking, though.
I don't know about
Oh, come on. He's small. See, you look good when you're that big.
That's cool.
So this is Twins Talk Tech
Okay.
podcast.
Nice.
We're
Interrupt.
6 minutes into it. That's okay. It's what happens when you're in here.
So I can tune into this, huh?
Twins Talk Tech,
Okay.
YouTube. It's the #1 rated podcast for podcasts that haven't been watched yet.
Right.
Yep.
And twins.
And twins.
Nice.
Technology related twins.
Very cool.
Yeah. Whatever you need to do.
Okay.
He's talking, so I'm gonna pretend this never happened.
Yeah, thank you. That's about how most of the conversations happen with me anyway, so it's fine. I'm
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm done now. There you
After
go.
all that.
Yeah.
No,
But-
well, okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish.
Well,
No, finish.
Well, that's pretty well is my rant on iOS 12. I like basically everything else about it that I've used. I haven't had to worry about changing too many settings. I haven't done anything for my own screen time because I'm not watching that. I don't care. It's not a concern. I don't think I'm using it too much or whatever. I haven't had any battery issues. I haven't any bugs. And even through the whole beta of iOS 12, I did not do because I did iOS 11 beta, and every time it would just always wanted to keep me in the next beta instead of being in the live mode, and you had to go through this stupid song and dance to get out of that. So I'm like, well, I just avoided it this time. And everybody was saying that the beta was good. They had very few problems, and that seems to be the case. I don't really have any issues out of the 12 that I have right now.
Yeah.
Do
I
you have issues?
had the beta on my phone,
Oh,
and I had to take it off. I had the beta on my iPad, and it seemed fine. So it was interesting that one was okay, one was definitely causing problems. But I do feel your pain a little bit. When I had it on the iPad, and I had to learn to go in the upper right-hand corner to pull down. It took some training on my part. I now prefer it. You know, it's been 2-3 months, whatever it's been since the keynote, or since the beta has been available. And I now like it better because, again, as you mentioned, when you swipe up from the bottom to get the dock, there are times where I would get the dock when I want Control Center. There's times when I want Control Center and I had to get the dock. So Apple's now separated them. So now you have Control Center in the upper right, which is like the 10 or the X model phones. And the only thing coming up from the bottom, unless you're on a phone, is the dock. Now, because I'm used to it being in the corner on my iPad, when I want to access it, I find myself sometimes swiping from the corner on my phone. And of course, that doesn't work because I don't have the 10 model. I just have the 8 Plus, which is still at the bottom. Why Apple doesn't make this the same way for everybody, that actually bothers me more than anything, is that it's different on different devices. If I have a phone, but it's the 10 or 10S or potentially the 10R, it's in the top right corner. Something else is the top left. I don't remember what it is. But if I have anything that's not 10, what is it?
Notification is the
Is that what it
rest of the...
Okay. So if it's on the bottom on the non-10 phones, dock/Control Center. So that's a little annoying. I actually, like I said, I do prefer it now in the upper right-hand corner because there is that separation. I do find myself swiping up from the bottom to pull up messages. Messages probably the most used. When and if I ever get an iPad Pro, I do want the larger of the two. I do at that point plan on having two screens for various reasons. But right now with my regular iPad, it basically becomes two iPad minis or maybe two. It's bigger than the thing. So, but anyways, it's not big enough for me and my eyes that while the rest of me feels somewhat okay, my eyes are just horrible. I'm blaming allergies. My wife blames age. Let's go with both. 50-50. But so that's an iOS 12 thing. I think Screen Center, no, what do you call it? Screen Time is potentially at least as a dad with young ones who have iOS devices, is probably the best one. I do tend to lock it down quite a bit. When I told my son, we're going to give you this phone, I said, the reason we're giving it to you is so we can contact you. It's not so that your friends can contact you. It's not so that you can surf the web. It's not so that you can join social media of any kind. It's not so that you can do these other things. So I had it locked down accordingly. And I think even for the first 6 months or so, I had a lockdown where he couldn't even add phone numbers if he wanted to. Now, if he knew his own number, he could give it out and people could text him, but he couldn't add. He didn't have rights to it. I've since opened it up. He has proven mature enough to be able to handle certain things. So we're slowly giving him more access back. But that's one of my problems with before iOS 12 is that it wasn't very granular. There was only so many things that you could allow or disallow. And now you can get a much more detailed, yes, I can let you do this, but not this, this, and this. And before they were grouped together. I'd get specific, but nothing's popping out of my head right now. One thing that does kind of drive me crazy, and I don't know if it's Apple or if it's some sort of thing that they had to agree with the carriers, but you cannot, there's a carrier setting thing in there where I can disallow him making changes to LTE or cellular-based data. Meaning, if I turn it off, he can't turn it back on. Or if I take a bunch of apps and I say these apps can use cellular data, these apps cannot, he can't change those settings. But what he can do, as far as I know, he hasn't. But I'm saying what he can do is he can turn on hotspot. Well, if he turns on hotspot at home, and if the laptop, which is running Windows, allows him to make changes to the Wi-Fi settings, he can then bypass whatever protections I have at home on the home Wi-Fi. I have since locked down the laptop. He can still join other Wi-Fi hotspots, but through a DNS entry that he doesn't have rights to change, being it's a user instead of an administrator. It's locked down. I mean, if you wanted to go out and start downloading illegal software or other silly stuff, yeah, there's probably ways. I mean, that's one of our jobs right here at the school district is to try to stop these kids who are constantly finding things. But, and again, so far we haven't had that problem, but it's annoying me that Apple doesn't allow us to go in and lock that thing down as well. It shouldn't be an option that's so easily checked. What brought it up was we have a shared family plan, 15 gigs, and I don't know how many there are on it, but 1, 2, 3. There's 5 people, but then myself and my mother-in-law, we have a tablet that's cellular as well. So 7 devices on this shared 15 gigs, and it's been fine. Everything's okay. But for some reason, last month, not even the middle of the month, we hit 75%. And I'm like, whoa. So I log in, the app allows us to see the data usage, and it was my son. My wife, myself, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law almost uses not much, if anything, but we probably had 6 or 7 gigs apiece. No, I'm sorry, total. All 3 of us. Him by himself, he had probably about the same, 7 or 8 gigs. And the way that our company does it is, you've got the 15 gigs, and then you have rollover. Whatever below 15 from the month previous, it rolls over to the next month. So we had, at this month, about 20 to 21 gigs of data. And we were already at 15 to 16. So we'd already passed the month's cap. Fortunately, we had rollover. And so I'm looking through his phone, and I see that hotspot is turned on. Now, through conversations, I was like, you better know, boy. But through conversations, I was reminded that I enabled that for a reason in the past. And apparently I had forgotten, as I unfortunately tend to do.
My kids rely on that.
Do they? I have been checking his phone quite regularly, looking at the carrier settings and the carrier, how much data is being sent through it to make sure that, he hasn't been doing it again. But Google Play Music, this is what we found out. He had Wi-Fi Assist turned on. What that means is if you have your cellular connection, it recognizes you have LTE and you have Wi-Fi Obviously, it would default to Wi-Fi. That's the normal plan of a mobile phone. But with Wi-Fi turned on, if your LTE signal was stronger than your wireless, Wi-Fi specifically, it would roll over. Your data would then start kicking over to your LTE. So when he was at school, he wasn't on Wi-Fi. And then when he comes home, his bedroom's in the corner of the house. Apparently he didn't have good enough signal. It was using Wi-Fi. So it was using, at the end of the month, it ended up using 15 or 16 gigs of just Google Play Music alone. And I'm like, whoa. And this is what we found out. We didn't know. He goes to a school that is liberal-ish. He, in the morning, plugs his headphones in, pulls them up through his shirt, hangs the earbuds out of his shirt, hits play, and then every once in a while puts the earbud in his ear. It's playing all day long. And the school allows it. I've checked with him because I didn't want him to get in trouble. So I had to say, okay, during the day you can't do that. Here's the reason why. We don't charge you for your phone right now, but I will. If you're making us go over just because of your music, I'll charge you. You get allowance, the allowance is gone. I mean, that's just what's going to happen. He's been better. Again, it's the month isn't over yet. We're about 20 days in. We'll see how we are at the end of the month. And so far, I believe he's back down to where he was. So we're doing okay. But if we could disable completely hotspot, that would eliminate that potential problem, right? And then if we can go in and be a little more granular in a few settings, that'd be fantastic. That'd be preferred for me. When it comes to other settings, let me back up. The way the screen time works best is if you have the family plan set up. And I don't. I tried it and I have never successfully got it to work. And Apple, I love most of your stuff. I know you're watching. I love most of your stuff. I really do. And I like how a lot of it really just works together. This was the worst implementation of anything I've ever seen. If you set up an account and it doesn't work, you can't edit that account until they're 13. Now, fortunately, my son is 14. Okay, I can edit his account or I can even remove his account, which is what I did. But my daughter, I couldn't. Once you create an account and then you join it to your family, you're done. If you made a mistake, if you made a typo, if you did anything wrong in the process, short of calling Apple, which I'm not going to do, it's not worth it to me to spend that time, you cannot make any changes. And that's the dumbest thing. I'm too imperfect to lock me down that close. So we've never set up screen time.
You didn't try emailing? You didn't try emailing them or asking? Because I did that with back when I had too many devices, and I had already wiped, this is iTunes related when you can use only 5 devices. And I had wiped 3 of them, and I was like, I don't even know what these computers are. But you can only do it once a year or something stupid like that. I emailed them, and they wiped. I don't know if they'll do the same here. But
I don't know either.
But yeah. And we do have the family. I don't mean to cut your rant off, but we have the family. There were some issues at first, I wasn't able to get my wife added. But I don't remember having to change anything for her, but maybe it just never successfully added. I don't know what the deal it was with her. She's on there now.
So it may or may not have worked.
Well, it worked to the point where now we're in the family, and we're all good. So all 4 of us are on there, and things work out well. And before you move on, you can go and continue. But before you move on to another application, I do want to mention a few things about screen time as well that I like.
Do it. We'll end with your rant on screen time because that'll probably pull us up to our normal time frame, and then there's plenty of information, plenty of stuff to talk about. So go ahead, bring it up, talk it.
So the thing I like about screen time is, again, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not using it for myself, so this has nothing to do with me. But regarding my kid, the setup process is, well, for me, it was super easy. In other words, so I go through and I set up screen time. Again, not for myself, but this shows a list of the ones in my family. So I hit my son. I go through the process, and I basically set him and my daughter up this time around, just kind of the little offering of, okay, here's a little bit. Let's see how well you do. And so he got basically a little bit more. She's getting less. That's why she's avoiding iOS 12 right now. But when I had set it up, neither of their devices had gone to iOS 12 yet. So it's like Apple just stored the settings that I had selected for them. They already had restrictions turned on in their existing devices. And nothing affected that. Nothing changed it. Nothing like that. So when my son when I updated his phone to iOS 12, and it got to that point in the setup after the installation had completed, instead of him getting the option to skip and set up in settings later or whatever that option is, it's kind of underneath the continue, he just has continue. It's already been set up. Just hit continue, move on. It doesn't give him any information. This is what you can do. These are where you're limited. It basically just says there's screen time. Continue. And he found out the hard way, the way that I set him up. I set him up basically typical for his age range. Limited web access, limited media, no social media for him, and then total outside of phone and texting. And I think there was one more app, maybe the home app or something like that. There was one more app. You have 3 hours on your device. Games, music, it doesn't make a difference what it is. You have 3 hours total screen time outside of phone and text messaging. And he found out that the hard way yesterday, as a matter of fact. He's using his phone. He's like, what? What's going on? And he said, I was taking a nap, and he sent me a message, and I was like, what is this? Oh, disregard. So I like the fact that I can change that. Now, one thing you had mentioned, or change it off from my device. Let me finish the statement. One thing that you had said that I'm curious about is you had mentioned you want more granularity, and I think you can get down to being app specific. I know you can do like media. I don't know if it's termed media necessarily. That
you can be
Apple
like app specific.
I feel like you could be more. I could be wrong, but I thought I saw in a different podcast, show, netcast, whatever, the same topic basically. Somebody saying you can't do that, but then somebody I think can, and they kind of went in. Either way, I guess we need to do some research.
If you find it, tell me. I want to see it. Yeah.
Because I was under the impression, put it that way, that I can go in and say this app. Well, you know what I was watching. I think iOS today on the Twitch network, and I think they were going into screen time. This was back when it was a beta, so I don't know what the differences are between screen time beta to now. But I believe they went in and there was Instagram and FaceTime, and they could go in and set something there. I don't remember the specific amount of time.
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, and a few other social media type ones have already been integrated into iOS for a few years. Yes, those I believe are in there. FaceTime is an Apple product. The bulk of Apple things you can nix or allow. I'm talking about just any goofball app. My daughter downloaded one the other day. It's called Balloon Pop or something silly. That's not listed in there as an option.
And you've already gone in and double checked that, because I think there's a little line.
I think I have, because I was moving so fast that I might not have been in every single little corridor of the software. So that's why I'm like, if you saw a podcast, I definitely want to see it. I might have been there and missed it. I might not have. There might be a whole section of it that I haven't seen. Yeah. But I don't know until I'm going to keep playing with it. But
I feel like, and that's what's important, is how I feel. I feel like there's a little line. You know how sometimes not just Apple but other companies do this when they have a setting, but they don't exactly want you to mess with that particular setting. Kind of like that. It's just instead of the big button, there's a little line of text where you can be more specific, I believe.
I'll find it. I'll check it on today.
We'll both double check it. If I find it on my side, I'll try to do a little screen record and we can toss it into the good joke. But anyway, screen time, cool. iOS 12. We like it.
I do like it. I think it could be better, but I do like it. And supposedly Apple has Google has a new family thing that I'm going to dive into. We don't have Google products besides Google Play Music, so I don't know if it will really benefit us, but that's one thing that the Android for a long time didn't have, besides third-party apps that you had to sign up. Is just basically, here's an Android, use it. And that's one of the reasons why my son, who wanted an Android because his friends had them, I was like, sorry, I don't know it well enough. And part of my job is to protect you from yourself or your stupid friends. And not all of his friends are stupid, but at that age, they're kind of stupid. So, they're sheepishly stupid. So, we said no. I think I got him it was the equivalent of like a Note 3 rebranded, 2 or 3 years later to whatever they called it, the Edge or something silly. Not the Edge, because that was the one that actually curved. But anyways, not important enough to talk about. In order for me to actually lock it down, I had to install different pieces of software, sign up for a service, and then configure that service and give that app full access to the phone, which I'm not a fan of. That to me blows my mind that an app would ask for it, and then I would actually go, sure, yeah, you can do whatever you want on my phone because I totally trust you. Now, in this case, besides stealing my data behind the scenes, or at least his data, this eye, by the way, right now feels like it's closing up. I have no idea why. So if you see me blinking a lot, that's what's going on. So that was annoying. iOS, even when it was mildly paltry, at least it had something in there that, shimmer of hope,
Right.
if you will. Now, on the topic of stealing information, this is totally off the wall, and I think maybe this could spur a conversation later. I was watching an event regarding the new Oculus.
Wireless.
Yeah, it's right there on the tip of my tongue too. The name of it, and I can't think of it. It was just announced 3 weeks ago, and especially the situation you wear on your head. It looks really neat. But what's interesting is it's owned by Google, so that's the first thing that says, nope, I'm never going to own that. But there are these IR sensors on the top.
Oculus is owned by Facebook.
What'd I say?
Google.
Thank you for fixing me. Correct. Facebook. Google, sketchy enough. Facebook's the devil. So I will never own an Oculus thing. I won't say never. Probably won't. Probably won't never own. Anyways, this one has IR sensors in the front. It maps the room it's in. You're just sending 3D data of your personal dwelling space to Facebook, who will share that with anybody who wants it for the right money. I mean, they don't just go, here's an open folder on the internet. They charge for that. All right.
Building a
So that's all I
landscape
gotta say
of the
about that.
landscape. Yeah, we
Yeah,
probably
right.
should talk about that someday because there's been a lot of news about Facebook and some security issues and whatnot. In addition to their years of just not caring about privacy, for
Yeah.
people.
Well, how can they? If they care too much about privacy, that's why they get paid is by people not being private, just throwing their data. It's convenient for you so I can talk to my daughter or look at my son's cat, Here's all of my information. So yeah, it's mind-boggling. But anyway, so that's pretty much where we should probably end right now. I think I would like to talk about next week. Maybe we can talk a little bit about iOS being faster, even on older devices. I'm FaceTiming you with an iPhone 6, and it actually seems faster now than it did with iPhone, 8 or 9? iOS, I should say, 8 or 9 when it came out. But also, again, as you hinted at in the beginning, we didn't get to today, where in the world is the iPad mini? My son, my daughter, my wife are wanting the iPad mini upgraded. I have family and friends always think I had 10 phone calls or texts the day after the keynote where they announced the new phones. Where's the iPad mini? Like, I sit down and talk to Tim Cook all the time about, what's going on. I got the inside track. But it's a valid question. Yeah, you've got these phones now that are almost the same size. But my wife doesn't want to carry around a phone that big, and she doesn't want to carry her iPad everywhere she goes. So there's a market. Is it not big enough for Apple? So I think we should talk about that a little bit just to get your input. And of course, I have more rantings than that as well.
Sure.
But that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Brent, any closers?
No.
Awesome. Ciao, everybody.
See you later.